Hello and welcome to the video. So in this one, it's just going to be a quick little look at what the Spectral Knight fight is like. So I'd been grinding away with the Warlock, trying my best to learn how to beat this guy. And well, after a little bit of effort, we actually managed to get there. This isn't actually the first time I fought him, so I am a little bit more competent here than when I first gave it a go. I actually made the mistake of not pressing record when I went and actually killed him, so as a result, this is actually the second time that I went and soloed him, but you know, it should give you a pretty good idea of what you're really up against in regards to this boss. He is very, very fast. I have to say he is my favorite boss out of all of the bosses in the game thus far. I absolutely love how dynamic this fight is. And a lot of his moves actually sort of give me the vibe like he's riding a invisible horse. Like, whenever he charges at you with his blade, it makes me feel like he's doing a little bit of jousting. And I feel like it's a really, really interesting vibe for a Spectral Knight to have that sort of thing. I really love the theme of this fight. I love how dynamic it is. It's just a lot of fun. Now, if you're curious about the perks that I was using for this one, I had Torture Mastery. I also had Vampirism. I went with Infernal Pledge. This one might not be so obvious, but this guy is a Spectral Knight. He's undead. You definitely need to be running Infernal Pledge. There is like no other reason I would ever run that perk, but 25% damage reduction is insane. And then finally, I also had Curse Mastery. I'm just using the base Warlock gear here, so nothing special at all. It's literally just what I spawned in with. Anyone can go give it a try, really. You're actually pretty tanky with that minus 25% damage. It's pretty damn solid, I'll say. The fight's pretty straightforward. There are a few moves in here that always catch me off guard. For example, when he just holds up his blade and does like a little bit of a spin, that one that you have to duck, I'm almost always caught off guard by that one. And that's the one that's really taken me the longest time to get a handle on here. I'm going to put together a video showcasing all the different moves that this boss has and just giving you guys a bit of an idea of how to actually fight him, what you need to do if you want to, get in here yourself as either a Warlock or some other class for that matter. Now that I've been able to best it as the Warlock a few times, I'm thinking I might try and give it a few shots on a few different classes, see how it goes. That being said though, if you are trying to learn this fight, 100% give it a go on Warlock first. They definitely have the biggest advantages against this guy. Like when it comes to any boss really, if you're trying to learn the bosses, always give it a shot on Warlock first. Just the healing, the lifesteal, it is just absolutely insane when it comes to fighting bosses. And with this one in particular, that 25% damage reduction from the Infernal Pledge, it's a no-brainer. Definitely give it a shot first here. And then once you've figured out exactly how the move pattern works, once you've figured out what you're doing there, then go ahead and switch it over and try it out, with another class. I feel like that's probably just like the best advice you can get as bosses come out in Dark and Darker, unless Warlock has some like drastic rework. It's just gonna remain as number one, just dealing damage and also healing. It's just unbeatable, really. That's why Warlock is such a strong class, really, for what it's worth. I think the next build that I really want to go try against this guy is the Longsword. I think I might just run it with a fighter and see how we go. I just feel like a lot of his attacks don't seem too difficult to parry. There's a few that you have to jump, so you couldn't really parry them, but most of them I feel like if you know where they're coming from, if you've got a good idea of what's happening there, you should be able to parry it. A lot of his attacks are very well... you get a pretty good idea of which way his blade's going. Like, there's always one that catches me off guard with all these bosses, but, it just takes a matter of time and eventually you get everything down pat and figure out exactly what to do. The move where he drops down from the sky, I'm still not like totally certain on what's the best dodge strategy. It seems like even running directly at him might actually be the play whenever he jumps up like that. I noticed when I go from like left to right, it doesn't always get me out of there. Like sometimes if I'm strafing right or left, I will just get out. Other times he'll still land on my head. So I feel like maybe it's better like to just run at him potentially. I haven't really tested it out, so I'm not 100% certain. That's the one move here that really still stumps me a little bit, but beyond that, I feel like if you just run this fight and you just get in there and give it a shot, you'll pretty quickly pick up on the moveset that this guy runs. I'd highly recommend, if you haven't like done boss fighting or anything like that before though, maybe don't start with this guy. This guy is definitely one of the tougher bosses. He's got a lot going on here. In my opinion, if you haven't really bested a boss yet by yourself, go straight to the Goblin Caves. Go take on the Cyclops. I think he's one of the best bosses to fight solo. He's a lot of fun. And I feel like it's just really the beginner boss in my mind. It's the first one I started with, and from there it just made life easy, I feel. If you play a lot of range characters, going and fighting the Lich in Hell can also be a good one, but at this point, seeing as you have to go through 2 layers before you even get a chance to fight the Lich, I wouldn't recommend that one to start. It was a little bit easier when you only had to go through the crypts, but now it's just a lot of extra hassle. That's like the one downside of the ruins at this point in my mind. If you are like a hardcore boss farmer and you love doing like the bosses in Inferno, you gotta wait about like what, 25 minutes until you can get down there. So, you know, a bit frustrating, but at the same time, I actually think it's a pretty good trade-off. I really do like the new ruins, the 3-tier setup, especially with the Expressman. I feel like it is a really, really good change for the game. I'm sure it left a few people unhappy in that regard, but at the same time, it was well worth it for what it offered into the game in my mind. And I feel like this might end up becoming a bit more of like a norm moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an extra layer to the Goblin Caves, or they even consider doing something else with the Frost area. Now that they've got the Expressman, I just feel like it only makes sense to add a few extra layers, you know? I remember one of the big problems that the devs were saying is that they didn't want to have their game split between more than 3 different map queues, which is why they actually brought the ruins into the crypts and made it the 3 tiers. So I think it's likely that they might do that as well to compress the amount of maps that we're actually going to be, you know, playing through. Now, if you liked the video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. I also do tutorials, tips, tricks. Tips and tricks, let's plays, just about anything Dark and Darker related really. You're going to find it here on this channel, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of that kind of stuff and ring the bell so you don't miss out on notifications. And I will see you in the next one.